But we're going to get our NFL talk on now, a little CFL talk on now. Our video chat brings in one Nicholas D. Graham, former Colt, Eagle.
What's going on?
Hey, Nick, I wasn't done your list yet. Riders and Ticats Corner. Where do we catch up with you today, Nick? Where you at?
I'm actually in Lake Charles, Louisiana, man. I'm coaching football now. So that's where I am. Sunny Lake Charles.
Lake Charles, Louisiana. It just sounds hot and steamy in Lake Charles, Louisiana today. How is it down there?
It's pretty dang humid. You walk to the car, you're sweating. So it's one of those things, man. It'll be 81 degrees and you'll just be dripping.
You know, Nick, I just real quickly looked up your Instagram bio. It said love and life and the people in it. And for those that don't know, Nick was here with the Riders in 2010, 2011, 2012. Those are pretty good times. I've had a lot of former Riders on the program. I'm saying, are you following the team? And they say they are because you can get the games down there on television right now. So what's your take on what's going on in Riderville, your former home?
Well, man, I'd love to say that I'm able to tune in and watch every day. You know, anytime it's on, I'm going to take a look and watch some Canadian football. I love the league, in particular the Riders. You know, that was my favorite organization when I was up there. So I try to catch it whenever I can. Got about 3 guys that I still know and still talk to up there. Brian Burnham in BC and Brandon Rutley's in BC. And Dane Evans is actually a kid I coached at Tulsa who's there also in Hamilton.
Okay, so tell me about Dane Evans then, because a lot of people thought when Jeremiah Masoli went down, the season would be over, and Evans basically hasn't lost other than here, as you guys recall, the night the Buffalo Days opened. Remember that late game? But what is up with Dane Evans, man? Do you see Cinderella's ball striking midnight, however that goes, on Dane Evans, or is he just going to keep? Because they're 9-2, best team in the league.
He's going to keep ascending. I mean, so I know him. He went to the University of Tulsa. I worked there and I played there also. We've had a couple of guys in the CFL. Jeff Parrott was up there. There was a guy named John Hammerstein Reese that was up there. So he's familiar with the game. That kid is just a stud, man. He just always plays hard, man. He's been undersized, but he's got a freaking rocket for an arm. And I'm not surprised at the things that he's doing.
You get that McNeese jacket on. Is that the same staff as KJ?
It was. KJ is now at Southeastern now. I saw him a couple of times this summer, and we'll play each other a little later on this season.
Right. That is in Hammond, Louisiana. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yes, sir.
Nick, before we go a little further down the line, and these guys will have some football questions for you, what are your memories of the Riders in your time here? The hiring of Chaim. There was a lot going on with the Riders in your time here.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy time, but, it was a time where, I wasn't able to play in the NFL anymore and, didn't know where I was going. And, I got up to Saskatchewan. I didn't know what to expect, but the organization was just a first-class organization. I think the world of Coach Miller. Don't get to talk to him often. We're Facebook friends, so we kind of, like each other's pictures back and forth. And I just love the guys that were up there, man. I still talk to Kai Stewart quite often, so there's some friends that I'll have, for the rest of my days and just the city. I mean, the way they embraced the team and the game, it was crazy. I loved it, and it wasn't the same when I went to another team. So.
Nick, Marshall Hamilton here. I'm a former defensive back with the Riders, but that was back in the era when they didn't even have pre-snap motion. You could waggle to the side with your 2 slot backs, and that was it.
Right.
If you were coaching a defensive back on your current team who had an opportunity to come to the Canadian Football League, what pre-coaching would you do to him in terms of what to prepare for and what to be ready for when you come to the Canadian Football League?
Learn to play in space because that field is huge. Balls that you think you can get to, sometimes they float over your head just because you're not used to the dimensions of that field. And then get used to that waggle. I think that's the biggest thing the guys struggle with when they get up there. It's just speed coming at you in your face before the snap. And so it's difficult to deal with. But I always try to encourage kids, that aren't able to play in the NFL to take a look at the CFL and, because it's a great league and it's a great living for a kid that's fresh out of college.
You talk about that, Nick. What's the imprint of the CFL? How much has it grown south of the border down there in the States? It's on ESPN now. People get a chance to be exposed to it. But from the player's standpoint, are they seeing it as an option? Are they exposed to it more than they were before?
I think that it's definitely a viable option for kids, and I think they just know. I came out in 06, and I'll be honest, I really, I think I'd heard of the CFL, but I didn't get to watch any games, didn't know the rules or anything. Now, since I've been coaching about 6 years. I always get kids asking me about the CFL, and so I think that they know that league exists. They know that there's great players up there. They know that guys sometimes go to the CFL and come back to the NFL. And so ultimately, I think that it's in the States, it's in a great place because kids see that as a viable option.
Nick, last one for you. The NFL kickoff Thursday night, as I mentioned, with Green Bay at Chicago. You're alum of the Colts and the Eagles. Is there one team that you follow more than any others or are a fan of more than any others? Is it the Saints because you're in Louisiana? Who's your team?
My team is the Philadelphia Eagles. Always has been. Even before I played, as a Randall Cunningham fan, I had the Eagles starter jacket when I was a kid. So I've just always followed the Eagles. And, I don't get much time to watch NFL games coaching just because, we're 24/7, getting ready for ball games. And, but I always try to peek in on the Eagles.
So did they keep the right quarterback in Carson Wentz? What's your take on the Eagles here? Of course, we're giving the division to the Cowboys, but as far as the Eagles themselves go at the quarterback position, did they keep the right guy?
Yeah, I think they kept the right guy because, I think Carson is younger, and he can't help injuries. That stuff happens, but I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be a dang good player. And then that's no knock to the guy that they got rid of. It's a luxury to have one quarterback, so to have two, we were in a good space. I don't think they could have went wrong with either guy, but, just from a youth standpoint, I probably would have kept Wentz.
I'm doing my best enactment of a belligerent, rude Cowboys fan. How am I doing? Does it fit the mold?
Oh, man. I didn't know that you're a Cowboys fan, man. I still love you, man, but the goodness gracious.
Nick, thank you, my man. Good luck with McNeese State, man. We'll be following now and appreciate all of you following what we do. It's good to catch up with you.
Good to catch up with you, too. You guys take care.
Nicholas Donnell Graham joining us from McNeese State down in Louisiana with a little bit of a preview there. And it's funny, it's what I love about bringing those guys on from that era. 2010, Grey Cup appearance. 2011, firing of Greg Marshall. 2012, Chamberlain's first year. That was massive upheaval in pro football terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so much going on at that time, and he got to experience all of it. Kind of funny, but it's cool to see, the way the game's, portrayed down there, the way people think about it. Now, he didn't know much about the CFL, but now you get all these guys, and we're starting to talk to more alumni. And you look at, we had Eddie Davis on, and we had other guys on who are doing these conditioning programs down in the United States, or Kevin Glenn now in Detroit, and, him in Louisiana, and they're coaching, and they're giving back to the game, but they're also spreading the word about how great the CFL is, too. And the next crop of young players start thinking, hey, the NFL's great, but the CFL is pretty awesome too. And look at these guys. They're heroes back up in Canada. We were in Nashville last December, and those guys just remembered all of these alumni who came and played with the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
I don't know if I told you that, Marshall. Darren and I were wandering around the Titans tailgate. We had Ryder, I think I had a golf shirt on. You might have had a hat. Can't remember, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And these guys were like, hey, you guys, you're from Saskatchewan? How's Ken Austin doing up there? He's a legend down here from Brentwood. And who was the other guy?
Offensive
Chamberlain.
line.
They remember Chamberlain.
Well, they remember
Tennessee Tech. Like, it is a big deal down there.
Yeah.
Short tangent. I couldn't help but think when he was talking about the Eagles starter jacket, it just took my mind back to the movie Invincible with Mark Wahlberg. That
Vince
whole
Papale.
Vince Papale story. That's for those of you that are listening that haven't watched that movie. I know it's not a new one anymore, but a great movie. And I love movies that are based on true stories, and that was an inspiring movie.
Just want to read a couple text messages here on the Prairie Mobile text line from Ken. He says, more Lou, love the passion. Great show, Rod. I am with Irene. That's from Ken. That's a Saskatoon couple who you've met them, Darren, but they told me at the All-Star Celebrity Football Game Saturday night that Ken is afraid to tell his wife what happened on the show on a daily basis because then she'll realize he wasn't doing any work around the house. So he's trying to figure out how to bridge that.
Just say goodnight, Irene.
You know, that's one thing, by the way. I had a guy Friday morning at a meeting I was in. He said, "Can you shorten the show?" And I said, "Why would I do that?" He goes, "Because it's taking up all of my time." He goes, I can't turn it off." Is my good friend Ken, who's probably watching right now. Paul Drouin, the big PD, wants to go 3 hours, that sadist.
I was just going to say that the average listener and
Want to go
watcher
longer.
wants to go longer, not shorter.
Not sure, yeah, but that's what everybody's saying. It's taking up all of their time. That's not my problem, I don't think. From Leonard, he says, Cody and the Rider offense shredded Richie Hall's defense. Willie Jefferson was too tired and exhausted to stop the Rider offense in the last 3 minutes of the football game. May or may not be true. That's the take from Leonard. And your boy Nashville chiming in again from Saskatoon. Everybody's from Saskatoon writing in today. But what does that say, Darren? We're very big in Saskatoon.
But we knew that.
That's what that says. He says Winnipeg is all sour about the loss, saying we're lucky Nichols and Harris weren't in. Why don't we remind them that just a couple of weeks ago, they wanted Chris Streveler as their starting quarterback? How about that? Remember they didn't like Nichols? This is what you wanted. You got what you wanted. How's that working out?
But we didn't want Harris to be suspended.
No.
You're watching Rod Peterson On Demand. For more of The Rod Peterson Show, visit rodpeterson.com or follow Rod Peterson on social media.